everyone. Um, so just to level set, I always like to start these by saying, why are you here as a leader? So being a leader of a giving circle in your community is giving you the opportunity to network and give back and support the causes and organizations that you care about. So it's a really exciting role, and we try and make it as simple as possible for you to do this, but um, there is just some nuances to know and a little bit of level setting in terms of what your role is. So this is what we're going to cover today. First of all, what giving circles are, how Grapevine fits into that. For example, why did we reach out to you, Sarah, and invite you into your group? Why you're a leader, what the purpose and expectations are of you as leaders, and also how to successfully lead your group. So please do drop questions in the chat throughout. I will monitor it. And if you want to jump in at any point and ask something, please do unmute. We're a super small group, so this time is for you. So I want to make sure you get everything out of it that you're looking for. So I always like to start. I know all of you know this by now, but what is a giving circle? So Sarah, maybe I'll call on you because I can see you. In your own words, how would you describe what a giving circle is?
Well, years ago, I would have had a different definition for it, and that was part of my vetting process. But my new reform definition of a giving circle is an opportunity for people to come together and very thoughtfully pool their money with the intention of giving a large sum grant to a local nonprofit that is meaningful to them.
That is perfect. That is exactly it. It's a simple concept. It's groups of people coming together, pooling their donations to make a larger impact collectively. When a nonprofit gets a larger sum of money, it really enables them to be able to do more work with it. And also at the heart of this model is community building, the social aspect, and learning from members what the community needs and different nonprofits to support. So these are all different groups, part of the Grapevine community, some virtual groups, some in-person groups, but this is what giving circles can look like and much more as well. This is a really common model of giving circles, and the model that we've used to base the groups on that we kickstarted. So Wilmington, Delaware, our Longmont group, Worcestershire group, it's all based on this model. The idea being that with the goal of having 100 people contributing $100 a quarter, then members nominate different nonprofits for consideration by the group, and then members vote on the recipient. Some groups are more than $100, less than $100. They don't all have 100 people. Some have 10, some have 600. But this is just a really nice goal for your group, because the idea is that you're giving away a $10,000 check each quarter. And that's $40,000 a year. And this is a continuous model for the causes and organizations you care about. So it doesn't just stop after one campaign, it's ongoing support for your community. Giving circles are really part of this larger collective giving movement. We certainly did not invent giving circles here at Grapevine. The idea of collective giving has been around for centuries and centuries in different religions and cultures. But the idea of a giving circle really came into popularity in the 1980s, and we've seen it steadily growing here. It's estimated as of 5 years ago that $1.3 billion was moved because of giving circles. We expect that number to be a lot higher now, and that there were over 2,500 groups as of 5 years ago. So we know that number is actually a lot higher, and we're working on some updated research right now. But just know your work is really part of this larger movement that's happening right now. And just to touch upon why what you're doing as a leader is so critical, it's because what we know is that it really matters who gives. So this chart here is representing the larger philanthropic landscape in the United States. If we focus on this middle number, for example, you can see that less than 2% goes to women and girls causes. But what we know, as of 5 years ago, the research showed that giving circles were made up of about 70% women, and women and girls causes were one of the top 3 most funded areas. So when people are bringing their lived experience to where they put money, you're really able to shift those typical sort of patterns you see in the larger philanthropic ecosystem. So lastly, I'll just touch upon who we are as Grapevine, because I know it's always a little confusing. How do we fit into this? Who are we? So we are a team of community builders, fundraisers, engineers who have come together to build Grapevine. And there are really two different ways you can engage with us at Grapevine. One is using our free tools to run your giving circle, whether you want to start one or you have one that already exists. We found that there really weren't tools specifically for giving circles. So in March 2020, we launched as a free platform. We also built this global giving directory in partnership with an organization called Philanthropy Together, so people could easily find giving circles to join. And then the other piece of that, as a nonprofit, we are really trying to introduce this model to more people and places. So because of that, we are kickstarting all these different groups across the United States. And we've been doing that for a year now. And that really came out of our research where people were saying, we love this model, but I don't really want to start my own. I'd love to join one that already exists. So we started to kickstart groups, invite members in, and then look to get some leadership in place to really take the keys and lead the group. So that's why you're here, because we are trying to get a group off the ground in your area, and we're a small team and we are not based everywhere. So it's really essential we have people in the community utilizing our tools and our training and onboarding so that you can run the group in a way that makes sense for you and your community. So sometimes it's a bit of a chicken before the egg type of thing where we launch a group, we need to invite in initial members to get a leadership team in place. So sometimes there's that period where members are in place before leadership. So just kind of calling that out, because I know that can often be a bit of a challenge of running your groups when you first start. So here we are. This is where we're at to date. Our Grapevine community, people like you, our members and leaders, have moved over $30 million to over 3,800 nonprofits as of right now. So we're in every state and throughout different cause areas and different issues. So some really exciting numbers. We actually just hit 30 million very recently. So that's been exciting for us. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the expectations of what Grapevine does as an entity and what you do as leaders. So I'll just pause there to see if there are any questions before I jump into that. Anything in the chat? Okay. So what we do as Grapevine. So as I touched upon, we help grow your group in the initial stages. So this includes outreach to get members in your group, just like how most of you probably heard about your group. We utilize tools like LinkedIn, a lot of publicly sourced emails. We also do ads on channels like Facebook and Instagram. So we put resources and funding into growing your group in the initial stages. We also continue that for a while, but we roll it out eventually just due to resources and cost. But we do put a lot of effort into growing your group, especially in the early stages.
Can I ask a
Yeah, go
question
ahead,
real
Kelly.
quick?
Yep.
How how is a group initiated, especially if they don't have any leaders to begin with? Like um the group I'm in, the Worcester Women for Good, started I think a little over a year ago, and I joined relatively early, maybe a year and a half ago, and I joined maybe a couple of months in. And I don't think we had any leaders at the time, and so how does that get initiated? I'm curious.
Yeah, so our team looks at, as I mentioned, we built that global giving directory. So we really were working to map the Giving Circle movement in the United States. So what our team did was look to different areas where Giving Circles might not have existed or where there was opportunity to start another. And basically, we, based on our research and where there were gaps, kickstarted these groups in those areas. So it was fully us, Grapevine, who initiated these groups and then worked to invite in members. And that's why there are members in the groups often before there are leaders, because we need members to get leaders in place. So that's why you would have joined a group before there was leadership in place. So And as I said, that is one of the more challenging parts, is that gap between before leadership is in place, because sometimes members don't really quite know what's going on. And so we're trying to work on how we can streamline that more. But to answer your question, it's us based on our research of where we think we can most grow giving circles. Anything else, Kelly? Does that make sense?
No, that was great. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. So the second thing we really do as Grapevine is we provide the platform to help you run your group's page. As you've all seen, we facilitate the collection of donations. We use Stripe as our payment processor. We have tools for nominations, voting, event registrations, and we also send the funds to your selected nonprofits. So that's a really big benefit, because in the past, Giving Circles were collecting checks from all their members, but and then sending it over to the nonprofit. But we have an accounting team that will work on getting those funds over to them. And all of these tools are free. They are part of the work that we are doing to grow this movement. And then lastly, providing you with educational programming and support. So that's a large part of my role, is running workshops for our leaders, bi-monthly speaker series. We run weekly support one-on-one, and also host different peer learning cohorts, mentorship, all that kind of stuff. If anything is new to you on this list, please let me know. I'd love to introduce you to some of our programming. I will also include it in the follow-up as well. So that's what we do as Grapevine, but this is really your core responsibilities as leaders of your group. So the first piece is communicating with members. So automatically, nominations and voting will open through your Giving Circle page, but maybe you're finding nominations are low, or people aren't voting, or you just want to remind people. Sort of those reminders would be on you as a leader. Creating upcoming event posts. So we have a tool that we'll look at in a moment where you can let people know about different events you're hosting. So that would be part of your role. And also just generally keeping members in the know about the happenings of your group. So especially where there was this gap between members being in place before leaders were, once you're kicking off as a leadership team, updating your members so they no longer feel that confusion of what's going on. So really letting people know how they can engage with the group and different things they can attend. Then the second bucket here is organizing your quarterly gather and grant events. And we'll get into that in a moment, but these are really the cornerstone of the work you're doing together as a Giving Circle. It's when you come together quarterly to learn about the different nonprofits that members nominated, to better inform your voting, and when you network and connect with one another. So organizing the event logistics around that and hosting it as well. There's one sort of step before that. So if you were assigned, for example, as the nonprofit lead, this would be for you, but there's a gap between a week between nominations closing and voting opening, where you as an admin can go in and remove any nominations. So for example, maybe someone nominated a nonprofit that is not even in your state. You might want to remove that. And you'll know who nominated them, so you can always reach out and explain why you're removing them. Or maybe you want to cull down the list. Maybe you got a lot of nominations and you just want 3 to be voted on. Some groups will randomly select the finalists. Others will use our polling feature, ask members to rank them, and then from there, they'll pick the top 3. I always suggest the latter of polling. It just means there's a bit more intentionality to your finalists opposed to randomly selecting them. All right, now some of you are further ahead in this than others, for example, Kelly and Sarah, but before any of that, the very first thing we suggest you do is connect as a leadership team. So we call these your leader connects, and the main purpose of these really are to connect with one another, confirm your roles and responsibilities. When you're invited in as a leader, we have outlined different roles based on feedback from our leadership community. You might want to completely scratch those. That's no problem. You can do whatever you want, really, but we just wanted to make sure to give you some nice parameters and support as you're going into this. Another key part of this is starting the discussion about the your group's mission and values. So this is really key. And we actually run a workshop on this, but that Kelly, for example, attended yesterday. But this is really important to give your members guidance on the types of nonprofits they should be nominating. Maybe you want to support only nonprofits that have less than a 100K budget because you want your funding to have a bigger impact. Maybe you only want to support nonprofits that have a woman in leadership. These are all different things you can think about, but I do think, especially if you're having any issues with engagement in your group, this can really help people just connect a bit more with the purpose of the group and how they can better direct their nomination. And we have resources and tools for how you can give people different ways to find nonprofits, but just want to say this is a really important piece of connecting with your leadership team. Then mapping out your gather and grant events for the year, and then also any other social events you want to do. Some groups just do the gather and grant each quarter, some do monthly events, completely up to you. But this is a great time to sort of talk about that. Oh, and we've got Kelly, your leadership team on here.
Yeah.
I think that's the image.
That is.
So these are as I mentioned, we've outlined some guidance for your roles. The key focuses really being communications lead, managing nonprofits, and event logistics. If you have a small leadership team, these two often fold into other roles like facilitating events. And then it's always nice to have someone really focused on engagement and growing your group, but sometimes leadership teams are just too small, so we don't always see that. So these are some common questions that I often get. Who should initiate the email to organize the Leader Connect? That should be your communications lead. And then what if you're a new leader and you are not hearing from anyone on next steps? Please do just reach out to me directly. I've put my email here. I can help sort that out for you. Sometimes it takes a little bit of adjusting to get the right leadership team in place. Sometimes people want to be a leader and then they don't have the time and we kind of rejig things. So just let me know and I'll work with you on getting the right leaders in place. So on your group's page, you'll notice your upcoming events timeline. So this is really the guidance for how to organize your quarter. So as I mentioned, between nonprofit nominations and voting, you have a week there to remove any nonprofits before voting opens. If you don't remove any, they will automatically be included. The ideal window for you to host your gather and grant event is during that vote on nonprofits window there. If you have any issues with the dates, please do reach out to me. We'll try our best to rejig things for you. But this is really the guidance for you to follow. And then also, I always suggest during your nominations and your voting, have one of your leaders post a reminder to people about it. And usually that's the communications lead. And this is just something I want to call out, your members tab. This is how you can bulk message members, or you can message people directly as well. You just click on their name and click actions to send them a message, or you can bulk message by selecting all. This is also where you can download a CSV to learn about your members. So this will include their job title, any cause areas they've mentioned being interested in, if they're interested in helping to co-lead. So this is a really useful resource, especially if you want to hone for 2024 the nominations that you're soliciting from your group. You can get a good sense of, oh, wow, 90% of our members have listed environmental issues as important. So maybe you want to focus on nonprofits supporting that, for example. So now in terms of the nomination process, this essentially is what your members will see. So when they click on Nominate Nonprofit under that upcoming events timeline, they will be brought to a page that looks like this, and they will be able to make their nomination here. We've also updated this a bit, so I should put a new screenshot, but we've also added some resources for people to find nonprofits here as well. If you're a brand new group, we often, just for the first round, will add some nominations, just to get people understanding how to nominate and kick things off. If you as a leader do not want those nonprofits included, you can remove those. So you can see under nominate nonprofits on the right hand side here, nominated by Grapevine. That's how you can tell the ones we added. It will say otherwise the member who nominated them. And we only do that for your first round. So I don't know if that will apply to anyone on this call, to be honest.
Hey, Gabby.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at like our Grapevine page. I don't think I have the permissions to see what you were showing about like downloading CSV. Like I don't see the members menu and that type of thing. How,
Gotcha. Let me
unless I'm just missing something.
yeah, would you mind just quickly sharing your screen actually, if you're able to?
Oh,
Or
okay.
put the link in the chat and I can just see what you're saying.
I looked it up on my other computer.
No problem. You know what?
I'm on my work computer, and so let me just what happened?
Oh,
I can bring it up on my work computer. I just need a moment.
Sure. Yeah. Whenever you're ready, we can just look at that because it might be a question other people have as well.
Okay, so I do have it now.
Okay, go ahead. I'll stop sharing.
I'm just gonna share it. Oh. I don't usually use Zoom, and it's not happy.
You know what? We'll have some time at the end. Why don't we do it at the end? I'll just get through this content and then we'll and then you can finagle with that.
In the meantime, I'm just gonna throw the URL into the chat.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
you'll have it.
That's
Thanks.
Great. Perfect. Okay. So as I mentioned, you will have this week to remove any, just kind of reiterating that because I know that sometimes people are like, why was this nonprofit included in the voting? So to avoid that, just utilize that week. All right. Okay, so quarterly gather and grant events, as I mentioned, this is really the cornerstone of your group. I'm just going to show a really short video of an example of these events.
Living life in color. Everything around me looks so beautiful and sweet. Heavenly desire. Everything so bright, it's like a brand new movie scene. I'll be a massive colors, picture, perfect.
Okay, so the reason I like to show this video is because it articulates how simple these events can be. This group just booked a patio somewhere, and we want these events to feel as simple as possible. We don't want people to feel overwhelmed with logistics or anything like that. Most of your groups are going to be not all your members are going to come. So until your group is super large, just using local spots in your community. We have some people who use local libraries, all that kind of stuff. This just articulates how you can sort of do that. We don't give you a budget or anything for your events. So we do have a lot of suggestions for keeping them free or affordable, but this is just a really nice example of how you can organize these events. And when you do have your gathering, any event, but especially your gathering grant events, you can use this create an event so that members will get notified that there's a new event for them to register. It also means that under the upcoming event section, it will be listed. And you can also collect RSVPs, download a list of who has RSVP'd so you're aware. I always suggest, especially if you're having any trouble with engagement within your group, try and book these ahead for as many quarters as possible. Even just 2 quarters, 3, great. for Amazing Ahead. This just gives your members the ability to plan ahead, RSVP early, and see, oh, wow, this is, there's a lot I can engage with in this group. So if you're able to plan ahead, you can always update the information if you change the day or location. That's no problem, but as many as you can get on the calendar ahead as possible, the better. And then this is a classic sort of, or a standard, I should say, template of how these meetings go. Often, we always suggest inviting a previous recipient to the meeting to share about how they use the funds or just their nonprofit in general, or maybe any volunteer opportunities that they have upcoming. A huge part of this model is building those relationships with nonprofits and giving time as well as money to those organizations. So we find this is a great way for them to get volunteers and share a little bit more about their organization. Then having the members present the nonprofit that they nominated. We always suggest having the member present the nonprofit opposed to the nonprofit itself. Sometimes that's one and the same, but just because we try and make this really lightweight for nonprofits, and it can be a lot of work for them to attend these sort of things and prepare, and then they might not get the grant in the end. Although we find some groups do have the nonprofit present, it's up to you, but our recommendation is this. And then often there's time for a group discussion, and people will log into Grapevine and vote, or they'll go home and think about it and vote within the next whatever time frame your Giving Circle voting is open until. And then networking, this is a huge piece, networking and connecting with one another. And we find these events tend to be about an hour. This is you can do whatever you want with these events, but this is just some guidance for how we really find they work. In terms of voting, so all the voting needs to go through Grapevine in order, if you collect, it on a piece of paper and people raise their hand, there's no way for our system to know. So we always say, remind people to bring their login to the event. Once they log in to Grapevine on their phone, it is mobile optimized. It won't log them out. So hopefully they don't have to keep logging in, but just want to remind you to please direct people to vote through Grapevine so we don't have any issues with an incorrect nonprofit being selected. Also, it means there's full transparency there for who the winner is as well. And just a couple important voting details. Only one nonprofit can be selected, no splitting. There is a way we can remove you sort of from this automated setup we've got if splitting is really important to you. So please do reach out and let me know. But generally, only one can be selected. I've kind of touched upon most of these. Yeah, I've touched upon all of these. The one thing I did want to call out was that there can be one sort of winner per cycle. I will share this in the follow-up, but we've got a guide to how to host your gathering grant events, some tips sourced from other groups. That's really useful, so I will share that. And then just some general tips we find just to end on here that having name tags, little things like that really help. Having a check-in table, keeping it simple, as I touched upon. If you're a virtual group, having a designated host to welcome people in, as well as sort of the admin, and anything you can really do, especially if it's virtual, to connect people. We've had some groups vote on a theme song, and then the host will play that as people arrive. So little things like that can really help build community amongst the group. Okay, I am going to pause there because I want to make sure I get questions answered. Before I turn over to looking at Kelly's group, anyone else have any questions at all, Bridget or Sarah?
I do have a question, but it's a little bit more specific to reaching out to the organization. Would now be a good time to ask that question, or more towards the end?
No, go ahead. Sounds great.
Okay, so I just participated in my first giving cycle this week, actually, and I've been slated with reaching out to the organization that we nominated. So my question is just, other than sharing the wonderful news that we've selected them, is there anything process related that I should be conveying? Like, should I be collecting an email or a tax ID number to pass along to Grapevine?
Yeah, that is a great question. I should actually add a bit about this into that presentation we just looked at.
Mm.
So in terms of the granting to organizations, what will happen automatically is we will send the funds to the winner based on how many votes were got. Um, and we will reach out to the organization. We'll say, what's your mailing address? Do you want the funds by check or wire transfer? They will confirm all those things. If we don't hear back from them, we will hold the funds and try again. So the funds will be sent over to them. They will know the Giving Circle it was a part of. So you aren't, like, the leaders aren't looped into that or anything, but you will get an email letting you know that that your winner was selected, and will be reaching out to that nonprofit. So if you do also want to connect with that nonprofit, for example, to invite them to your next event or whatever you want to do, you'll be able to see the contact information on. So if you just search that nonprofit, for example, it will pull up our directory. So I'll pick if you scroll down to nonprofits, I'll just pick a random one here. But this would have been, there's no nonprofit email listed here. There should be an email listed.
I'll look it up. I'm actually on the website right now.
So we usually, so you can see here, this would have been the email we would have had on file, so you can reach out to them that way. If you're not getting a response, or in that case of that other nonprofit, we don't have something listed, just reach out to us at membership@grapevine.org, or me personally, and we can look to see if we have another contact that we can provide you with so that you can reach out. Couple things I would say on that is really encouraging. So let me just go to a random. So all of your, you can do as a leader share group milestones. So you can do a post here, whatever it is, you can edit this. Once you post that, it's shareable. So it will you'll get this little button here so you can copy the link. Encouraging the nonprofit, for example, to share that out, sharing, reminding members of that link so they can share it out on their social channels. Because often the nonprofit will ask, like, is there something we can share out? And that's just a really easy link to provide them with. As well, when a nonprofit receives funding, we also encourage them to create a video to thank you. If they do that, we'll share that on your group's page, and you'll also be able to share that out. So we don't get, not all the nonprofits do that, but we also try and encourage them to share a thank you video and share it out on their channels as well. So I don't know if that helps clarify, but hopefully that gives you a little guidance of our process.
It does. So essentially, I can connect with them if I choose to, but Grapevine will already, you guys are just going to handle all of that on the back end.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't have to. We'll get the funds over to them, but lots of groups like to connect with them just so they can have their own relationship there and invite them to events, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So you mentioned, just to tag on to that question, you mentioned that if the organization that won the grant creates a thank you video, that Grapevine can post that video to the group's, the Giving Circles page. So that brings up to what I don't know is what the technology is capable of, what it is that we need to do as a group versus what Grapevine will do. Is there documentation about this somewhere that I can educate myself without having to take someone's time?
Yes, I have. I will show this presentation after. We also have sort of leader training modules, and I'll include those as well in the follow-up.
Great.
So I will make sure to include those. I am noticing though, Kelly, for your group, your group is a little bit older, so we actually haven't activated. So this is probably looking a little confusing to you, that timeline, that upcoming events timeline. You are not on sort of this automated cycle. Your leaders are opening up nonprofit nominations when they want to and opening up voting. Some like to have that control, but I do think it would be useful for you to decide if you want us to move your group over to this more automated cycle. And I will follow up in an email with the other leaders and explain.
Yeah.
There is some leaders don't want it because they lose a little bit of control in terms of when they're opening things up. And also, you need to go into the back end to tell us where to direct the funds. Currently, the automated cycle, based on the number of votes, we handle all that. But your group right now, it only takes a couple minutes. It's really not a huge thing. But when you had your winner, for example, one of your leaders would go into the impact tab, donation cycle admin, and they would go here and say, this is who won. Because you're on a bit of more of a manual cycle. This is good for groups that want to split the proceeds to different nonprofits. So there's plus and minuses to both. So maybe I'll follow up in an email so your leadership team can talk about it. But just want to
Yeah.
call out that's why it's looking a little bit different to you.
Okay. So I think our leadership team is going to meet in January to have a much fuller discussion of like, okay, how did we do in 23? What do we want to have different in 24? What's our purpose? What's our goal? What didn't work? What has worked? So this will be good, for our discussion in the beginning of the year.
Great. And I'm happy to, if you even just like want me at any point to like record a quick video about what automation looks like so you can see a different example, a couple minute video you can show. I'm happy to do that as well.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so I don't know then, Kelly, you are listed as a leader. So the confusion might have been just because you're not on the automated cycle, but you should, as a leader, when you go to the members tab, you should be able to see this. Are you saying you're not seeing that? You might not be logged in if that is why.
No, I am. Now I see it.
Okay, perfect, great.
Interesting. Okay.
But
All right. I was looking in the wrong area.
that's probably why, but yeah, that your group does look different on this side. Okay, great. Anything else? I know we've just got a couple minutes left. Any other questions? And Kelly Pugh, I can see your message here. I will look into this right after we get off this call. So thank you for sharing that.
I would appreciate that, Gabby, just so I can follow up with this organization.
Definitely.
So I did put my phone number or email, but so either way you want to contact me, I would be appreciative.
Yes, definitely. I'm writing myself a note in bold right after this. I actually have a meeting with our team, so I will do that right after this. All right, great. Anything else anyone is wondering? Well, hopefully I'll follow up with all these resources we just discussed. Hopefully this gives you a little more guidance as you're going into 2024. These are all suggestions for things you can do. Some groups take this and they run with it a little differently, but the goal really is just to give you a good understanding about what we've seen be successful for leading groups and how you can really utilize the different tools available to you. We also run other workshops. I'll be announcing the 2024 workshop slate shortly, but we also run workshops around how to engage and grow your group. So if you're having any challenges there, how to come up with the criteria for the nonprofits you want to support, how to run your gather and grant events. So we dig deeper into all these different areas, but this is really just a primer for you so you have a good understanding of how to get started. And yeah, we try and make this simple. So hopefully we try and give you all the information. So we don't want it to feel overwhelming to you, but we want you to have all the information you need, while also I do really want to highlight that this should be as simple as possible. So you're just getting a lot thrown at you. It does not mean you need to do all of these different things. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I hope you have a fantastic holiday season and look forward to seeing you in the new year. This is the last workshop of the year, actually. So please do email me if you have any questions at all. I will put that in my email in the chat right now. And yeah, just want to thank you for joining and stepping up to lead your group, and excited for the impact you're going to have in the new year. So thank you so much, everyone. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Gab.
This was very helpful.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Bridget,
much.
everyone.